In this chapter, we're going to set up the IK solvers and the control objects to be able to control the arm, as well as parent everything together so everything moves as one. For an IK solved arm, we need a control object at the wrist. Again, I'm going to use one of my spline control objects made out of 3 circles attached together. I'm going to align those directly in position and rotation to the wrist. This control is going to handle both the position of the end of the arm as well as the rotation of the hand. I'm also going to need a control object to handle the rotation of the clavicle joint. And I've got a nice little pin control I use often for that. And I want to align that in position. And then I'm just going to align the pivot in orientation. You can do that however you like. But really we want the orientation of this control, the actual pivot of it, to be along the natural axes of the clavicle itself. The last control we're going to need is for the elbow. I like to use a targeting system. You can directly control the swivel angle, as you'll see, like we did with the foot, where you actually have a twist in the knee. The problem being is there's a lot more change in the attitude of the elbow than there is in the knee when we're doing things. The leg doesn't tend to have as much sort of flexibility in a sense as our arm does. You also get problems where if it's just left as a swivel angle, as your arm swings back and forth through a full motion in a walk cycle, the elbow may swing in and out uncontrollably, and you'll have to do a lot of counter animation to try and keep it steady. This results in bobbling elbows and some nasty looking animation. So instead of using a direct connection to the swivel angle, we're going to use a targeting system. Again, I'm going to start with a small control object. And we want this control object to be directly behind the elbow on the solver plane, which is basically the triangle created from the shoulder to the elbow to the wrist back to the shoulder. That creates a triangle. We need this object to be directly back on that solving plane. Again, the easiest way to do this is to use your align tool. Align it in position and orientation to the elbow joint. And then on a local axis, move this object directly back, in this case on the local Y, because we built the arm in the top viewport. The local Y-axis is forward, so we want to move it directly back. We don't want to move it up or down, because if we do that, as soon as we target the elbow, the solver plane will change, and the elbow will change to try and actually reach the target. We've built this bone system where we want it, so we don't want it popping and moving before we've even started skinning the character. In linking up our controls, the control object first for the clavicle needs to be linked into the spinal column. I'm going to link that to the top bone of the spinal column. It might actually be better linking it up to the nub right at the very top so that it stretches with this bone as well. I'm then going to link the clavicle to the control. You could just control this bone system directly by grabbing the bones instead of having to grab a control, but I find it always better, again, for the reasons I suggested in DVD 1, that it's nice to have splines as separate objects so we can filter for them come animation time and only be able to select our control objects. So now that I have a spline control, I can control my clavicle rotation. In this case, in this character, I'm going to assume that the hands are always moving along with the body, and I'm going to link them directly up to the main waist control. This means now when the main waist moves, the arms will move with it. Next bit of parenting we need to do is parenting in the twist bones. The twist bones just get directly parented to the bone that they're going to be twisting around. In this case, these two bones are going to twist around this forearm bone. We should be able to move the rig now and have everything but the hand falling behind. The hand bone is just going to get linked up to the very end of the original arm bone, not to the twist bone, but to the original arm bone. And this was the nub for the original arm bone. We can now move the main control around the waist. The entire upper body is moving with it. This will be our basic control setup for the arm.